The Tale of Evening Shades Lane. It was a stormy night, somewhere in the mid-1950s, when fear came to Evening Shade. The tavern stood at the edge of town, its worn wooden sign creaking in the wind, nearly lost beneath the sheets of rain battering the roof. Inside, the fire crackled, filling the room with warmth and the rich scent of burning oak. A small group of fellows sat around a round table, nursing their drinks and swapping stories. Most of them tall tales from days long past, fishing trips, hunting excursions, pranks that had turned a bit too far. They were comfortable in their drunken camaraderie, content in the familiarity of the tavern. But that night, something was different. The power flickered, then went out entirely. The storm had knocked it out, as it often did, but it had never felt quite so heavy before. The tavern keeper, a stout man named Thomas, lit a match. His face flickered in the glow, before he passed a single candle to each table. There was a simple, unspoken agreement among the patrons. Without light, there could be no drink. The table where our group sat didn't miss a beat. Laughter bubbled up again. Glasses clinked, the warmth of friendship filling the void. But something had shifted. The candle in the middle of the table cast shadows that stretched too far, clinging to their faces. Lines and curves that once felt familiar seemed to deepen. Smiles turned strained. Eyes once bright now looked haunted, like old scars coming into focus. As the flame danced, their faces twisted with it. The joy in their eyes dimmed, swallowed by the dark. The room, slowly, imperceptibly, slipped into something more sinister. The stories changed too. What had been light-hearted banter turned darker. Tales of close calls, of people lost in the woods, of accidents that never seemed to be explained. The cheerful chatter slowed, then stopped. Silence thickened, pressing against them. The laughter was gone. Sensing the shift, Thomas forced a nervous chuckle. "How about a game, eh? A little distraction to lighten things up." The others nodded, hesitant, eager for anything to break the tension. Thomas poured another round, but no one seemed truly present as they picked up their glasses. The dark corners of the tavern seemed to grow. Even the wind outside, once distant, now howled through the cracks in the walls, as though it too knew something was happening. Then, a man named Henry spoke. His voice was unsteady, his words edged with something sharp. "I've got a dare," he said. His eyes darted around the table, testing the air. "Anyone brave enough to walk down Evening Shades Lane, into the cemetery, and bring back a bone?" The room fell still. The candlelight wavered, flickering wildly as if caught between worlds. Shadows on the walls pulsed and contracted, alive with some unseen force. The air grew heavy. The dare hung there, different from all the rest. There was a moment of hesitation. The storm outside seemed to press in tighter. Then one of the fellows stood. Edward, a man known for his brashness, his lack of fear. "I'll do it," he said, before he could stop himself. But the moment the words left his mouth, something cold crept down his spine. It wasn't the dare. Edward had walked that cemetery path many times before. It was the others. Their faces were too still, too intent, as if watching him not with curiosity, but with hunger. He forced a smile, bravado masking the dread. "I'll be back before you know it," he muttered. But the words felt hollow. As he opened the door, the last thing he heard was the others' voices, laughter, distant and strange. The door slammed shut behind him. The cold air hit like a wall. Edward pushed forward, coat flapping in the wind, boots splashing through the muck. He could feel their eyes on his back. He had to do this. to win, to prove his courage. But the deeper he walked down Evening Shades Lane, the more uneasy he became. The trees closed in, branches twisted like fingers scratching the sky. The cemetery gates loomed ahead, groaning in the storm. He stepped through. The air turned colder. The ground seemed to whisper beneath his feet. Edward knelt beside an old grave and dug with trembling hands. He pulled out a bone, small, fragile. Clenching it tightly, he stood and stared into the dark. The shadows moved, just at the edge of his vision. He turned to leave, but something held him. A whisper, like dry leaves but no wind. The shadows thickened. He couldn't move. Then something broke inside him. He ran, breathless through the graveyard. As he leaving the gate, someone grabbed him from inside the cemetery. The morning after dawn came, soft and gray. The storm had passed, but the air still felt heavy. The lights flickered back on in the tavern. The fire crackled. The patrons returned to their seats. Edward had not. Thomas shrugged. "Just a game," he said. "He probably went home." But as the sun climbed, the groundskeeper arrived at the cemetery. Fog swirled low. And there, just outside the gates, stood Edward. His eyes wide, his expression frozen, in terror. The groundskeeper called out. No answer. He stepped closer. The man was stiff, cold, dead. Held up by his coat caught on the gate, and in the silence of the cemetery just beyond the fog, a shadow moved.